Hi everyone. Over the next few minutes, we will go through a discussion of the argument essay for your English 101 course. The first thing I want you to do is take just a few seconds to consider what your definition of argument may be. If you need additional time to write down what your definition of argument is or to think about what your definition of argument is, go ahead and press the pause button. Here are two different definitions pulled from the Merriam-Webster dictionary that help us understand what argument is. The first says, the act or process of arguing, reasoning, or discussing. The second says, a coherent series of reasons, statements, or facts intended to support or establish a point of view. Let's put those two together to create a course definition. The act or process of arguing, which requires presenting a coherent series of reasons, statements, or facts to support a point of view. Let's break this down. First, I think it's important to acknowledge that this is a process of arguing. Arguing is a process. There are certain components and certain moves you have to make in order to present a well-structured argument. Next, consider that the definition says there is a coherent series of reasons, statements, or facts. That means you'll have several different reasons or main points that will aim to support your argument. And they need to work together. They should be organized. They should also just make sense for the argument you've selected. We'll talk more about reasons, statements, or facts momentarily, but consider a point of view. Argument requires that you have a belief and that you support that belief. In terms of a point of view, I would ask that you create a stance for your argument. Think of a stance as your position or where you stand on a topic. For this assignment, make sure that you select a debatable topic and you narrow the focus of your thesis, which in the argumentative world we call a claim, to your stance, your point of view. Next, consider the reasons that support your stance. Justify your point with various main points. These will be presented in body paragraphs. Utilize factual information, evidence, to justify various points. Facts are generally accepted as true, or they could be proven as true, such as a scientific fact. In terms of factual information, we don't typically cite factual information because it is something that can be verified across a wide number of sources and it is considered common knowledge. Use your understanding of your topic to present your factual information. For the sake of this course, other support will largely focus on your ability to provide opinion and to justify your points. This could mean illustrating an example to explain a fact. It could mean illustrating an example from your personal experience. Do keep in mind that this course is not a research-based course. You will have plenty of time to learn about research, evaluating sources, and incorporating outside sources in your English 102 course next term. So again, make sure that your support is a rhetorical argument in which you present main points that are based in fact and explained in lots of detail. You can also utilize your understanding of rhetorical appeal, such as logos, ethos, and pathos, in order to shape your main points. In the academic world, when we talk about argument, we want to talk about something that is formal, something that is well structured, and something that is sound. We don't really talk about argument in terms of quarreling or bickering. Academic argument is fair and respectful to all points of view. Argument has several parts that we need to go through in order to start to think about the structure of not just argument but also your essay. First, we will start with the grounds. The grounds of an argument is the foundation It's where you stand. This is your stance, your point of view. This becomes your thesis statement. And again, in the argumentative world, you might hear someone use the word claim. A claim is a thesis statement in which you present a stance. The grounds should lead directly to the support. The support of the argument includes the reasoning, facts, and other evidence. And for other evidence in this course, keep in mind that you will be using examples. Your argument may not have a rebuttal section, but I do want to cover this so that you have the option and the information to do so if you so choose. A rebuttal allows you to acknowledge an opposing viewpoint and refute it directly. I will also talk about concessions in a little bit. What you can see from this image is that argument has three specific parts. And while this may be a simplified view of the structure of argument, it gives us a good understanding of what each argument should contain and how those pieces work together to create a whole. For example, it would be difficult to present an argument in which you have no support. There would be no connecting point to the rebuttal, and there would be no illustration of the grounds. Much the same, it could be difficult to present an argument without grounds. You wouldn't have a perspective or a point of view, and so your support might not give your reader enough information. Thinking about how the different parts of argument work into an essay, consider the following structure. Your introductory paragraph is going to begin in a traditional way in which you present a hook to the reader. You want to engage them immediately. One way to think about this is to offer an appeal to pathos. How could you appeal to your reader's emotions in order to engage them? You also want to introduce your topic and present your claim. As you move to the body paragraphs, this is where you'll present your reasons. Ask yourself these questions. Why is your argument true, best, or important for someone else to consider or to agree with? Though we might want to argue that not everyone will agree with our argument, no matter how strong it is. Also consider what appeals you will use. Can you make a logical appeal? Can you elevate your credibility? Can you show your credibility to your reader? Can you make an emotional appeal? Is an emotional appeal appropriate for the argument you've selected? If you choose to offer a rebuttal section, you'll want to practice one of two techniques. The rebuttal section allows you to acknowledge an opposing viewpoint, and you can either refute that viewpoint directly or concede to that viewpoint. To refute a viewpoint directly, you will explain why the opposing viewpoint is not true, not best, or not important. This could also mean that an opposing viewpoint just doesn't fit into your discussion. For the conclusion, wrap up your essay in a succinct manner and answer any unanswered questions. Depending on your topic, you may try another technique, such as a call to action, or leading your reader with a food for thought, something to consider. Okay, let's take a second to go through a sample topic so that we can further visualize argument. Consider the following claim. Public schools should implement e-learning days when there is bad weather. Take just a second and ask yourself, okay, what do I think about this? Should they or should they not? Okay, let's take a look at an outline that I've created. Your points may differ drastically, and that's perfectly fine. That's one of the beauties of thinking about argument in the academic sense. In the social sense, a lot of the times argument means one person is right and the other person is wrong. In the academic world, that may not be true, right? We can all present really good reasons as to why schools should have e-learning days and why they should not. So, first things first, talking about e learning days, some institutions have already begun to implement e learning days, and what they do is during bad weather, whether it be a snow day or high winds, students are provided with an assignment on a school computer that they take home with them, and they're allowed to complete that assignment from home in place of attending class that day because, of course, the building is closed. Here are three main points that may work to support this claim. Reason number one says e-learning days prevent extending the school year. Reason number two is that e-learning days also keep students organized. Reason number three states that e-learning days support teachers. Now, this is a very simple outline. These three main points would become body paragraphs in an essay. Let's break them down further, though. For reason number one, e-learning days prevent extending the school year. Supporting details might include extended school years can be tedious for students, teachers, and administration, and your job as the author would be to illustrate that. How could it be tedious, and why is that a bad thing? Supporting detail number two could be extended school years can interfere with a parent or guardian's schedule as well. I think it's important to acknowledge that parents and guardians do a lot of work to make sure that their young students succeed, so we might want to include them in this essay at some point. Now, of course, you may have different points, and your points could absolutely be stronger than these. Consider that as we go through the next two reasons. Reason number two says e-learning days also keep students organized. Supporting detail number one, e-learning prevents a teacher from changing their syllabus schedule or an assignment due date, which helps students stay on track with each assignment. In cases of bad weather, a teacher might be forced to change their schedule or change an assignment due date. It's important to consider the student perspective. Is this frustrating? Does it lead to being disorganized in other areas? Is it stressful? Supporting detail number two. Students can learn more about organizing their work and schedule when tasked with completing assignments without an instructor present. This could be a really good lesson in a life skill. How to organize your own day, how to organize your own work, and how to practice independent work. For reason number three, I've selected these two supporting details. Teachers can spend time working on other tasks, such as lesson plans, during the e-learning day. Teachers can practice new pedagogical techniques like a flipped classroom during e-learning days. Examples to illustrate those would be important as well. Now, as mentioned earlier, you may come up with stronger reasons or just better reasons for this argument, or maybe you take a different perspective. Maybe your perspective is that public schools should not implement e-learning days when there is bad weather. Consider the main points that would support that claim. No matter the perspective that you choose, working with more than one reason is going to allow you to present a well-developed argument that addresses lots of different audience members or people who are involved. As you look through this outline, you can see that there's a consideration of teachers, administration, students, and whoever is the student's parent or guardian. The next thing to consider is whether or not a opposing viewpoint should be acknowledged. In this example, I've included the opposing viewpoint that e-learning days can fail. I've included this because I think a lot of things can fail, and it might be important to acknowledge that even really good systems like e-learning days might not always work. So in order to present a strong argument in which I acknowledge weaknesses that may exist, I've included a rebuttal section. In that section, I might detail a point such as students or teachers may lose internet access during bad weather. If a school utilizes an online learning management system, for example, Limestone College uses Blackboard, the student would need access to the internet in order to complete an assignment. As you all know, sometimes that just does not work out very well. So it's important for me to present this discussion point, not so much as a way to say that my argument is no good, but even really good things face problems or challenges or issues. As you select your topic, consider an outline. Yes, this would need to be fleshed out into a complete essay with full paragraphs, topic sentences, good examples with supporting details and transitional sentences, an introduction and a conclusion. But this gives us a good skeleton that we can work with as we progress through the writing process. Considering a concession, there's probably a few points we want to cover. We need to concede when the opposing viewpoint is valid and evidence based. With our example, e learning days can fail. Sure, we could most likely find or imagine or consider times when an e learning day might fail. However, it may not fail every single time. So in this case, our opposing viewpoint, while valid and possibly evidence based, is conditional. Concessions don't always mean that your argument is invalid. Conceding may mean that the opposing viewpoint is an exception to your argument. One exception to the idea that e learning days are good and beneficial is that they can fail. Because they don't always fail, we're not going to say that e learning is not beneficial. We just want to acknowledge that problems can arise. A separate discussion point, this would be a point that doesn't directly relate to your argument, but one that the reader may question, or one that maybe even you question a bit. Possibly your concession is just one valid point in a complex argument. And I think that's what we have in our previous example. The idea that e learning days can fail is one valid point, but we also have three other valid points that we've done a nice job of detailing. As you consider a rebuttal section, consider whether or not you can refute the opposing viewpoint directly or if you need to concede. And if you need to concede, that is okay. Consider the times in which concession works. As noted earlier, please keep in mind that this is not a research assignment. Focus on exercising your rhetorical skills, your ability to present a logical or logos based argument, a credible or ethos based argument, and an argument that contains an appeal to pathos, which is the emotional. Utilize your understanding of the subject. I promise you will have plenty of opportunities to practice conducting secondary source research, possibly even primary research, incorporating those types of research in written assignments and non written assignments, and learning about attribution or citations in the academic setting. We will start that discussion in English 102 next term. If you have any questions about your argument assignment, please let me know.